my trick to defending and maintaining speed is deciding when it's actually necessary to go offline in the first place. We talk about defending and changing up your line, and regardless of which way you do it, even if you do it in a really efficient way, and we'll talk about those ways to do it as we get in here, you're still going to be losing time by going offline. The number one rule for me is, all right, identifying passing zones on the track when there are cars to defend from. So where are they going to be trying to make a move? Where can I lose the least time by taking a defensive line? How can I position my car in an efficient way when they are there? And then the second part of that is, if there's a car length back from you, identifying, okay, he's too far to make a move in the first place. It's very much a balance. There's not a very hard answer for a lot of this, but it's definitely managing those factors while you're out on track and deciding, all right, is he too far back to try to make a move here? Is he close enough? Do I need to defend? Do I not need to defend? I have a good little clip from one of my GT4 races a couple of years ago. Go into theater mode here, but so I'm in the white and black McLaren. This KTM crossbow is the car behind. That KTM was probably 2 seconds clear of the field this race weekend, and he was working me over pretty good for about 20 minutes trying to find a way by. The McLaren's strength, and talking a little bit about Road America here too, was definitely straight line speed. The car would get out of the corners decently, but as soon as we would get into fourth and fifth gear, that's when those strengths would start to show a bit more. For me, the first step was identifying key passing areas for the car on me. For a spec racing series, obviously this is going to be a little different. Everyone has their own individual strength, so it's going to play into that hand a little bit, but figuring out where you're better and where your competitors are better. In my case, I knew that the main straight, I was going to be very clear. So into turn one, he wouldn't be making a move on me here. Because of that, that would pretty much guarantee my turn three entry would be all right if I'm able to get at turn one well enough and maintain that gap. So I'm not too worried about turn three. Turn five, same thing, very long straightaway. I may be worried a little bit about turn six if he throws a late move in there, if he's fast enough out of five and gets a good run. Turn eight, especially because that KTM was super quick through turn seven. So that opens up a passing zone here. And Canada corner, not so much likely because it is, again, long straight leading into that. Really, I'm only worried about a couple places on the track. Again, maybe Canada corner if he gets a good run out of the kink. So I'll keep that in mind as well. Turn 14, there's just no way, depending on how I can set it up. It's a very tight place to make a pass. And even if he did get under me there, I could always get him back on the straightaway using that to my advantage. That eliminates a lot of the track for me already. And I'll talk about Laguna Seca as well for where those passing zones need to be. But even just mentally going in saying, all right, there's only a couple places where, a move like a late dive down the inside is even possible. So here are the areas I need to be especially aware of. We'll jump into the clip real quick here. We're entering turn five. You can see I'm in the lead by a couple car lengths, and immediately in turn five, he's closing that gap up quite a bit. I mentioned in turn six, you see that Porsche's taking a very, very wide approach through turn five, but you can see he's not quite close enough into turn six here. I recognize that. I'm able to hold my line on the outside like I normally would, but he's all over me coming out of six already. Turn seven is very high speed, so we're not too worried about that. But again, as soon as we're coming out of seven, you can see he's right on me, and he's got a good run to get into eight here. So I recognize that. And all I do, I just cover the inside line, and you can see I'm not all the way over to the white paint on the inside. We're leaving about, half a car width, 2/3 of a car width, just enough so he can't try a move up the inside, but not so much where I'm not able to basically sacrifice my own line to the point where I'm losing a ton of speed and he can easily get around me through the next corner. That's also a balance of it. You never really need to be fully all the way to the inside, crazy F1 style defending where they try to pinch someone, up against the inside wall. As long as you leave enough of a gap that they can't get there, but you're also leaving room for yourself, that's good enough. Even then, I probably could have been a little bit more generous with fading back to the right-hand side. That's another common thing that people do. You start braking almost diagonally back to the outside a little bit to give yourself a wider approach. So that's something I could have done a little bit more here, but again, wasn't sure how much he was going to try to dive bomb on the outside, maybe try to make a move around the outside of this corner. So I was giving just enough space to, not push him off the track myself either. Trying to look after our equipment too. Now, as we get to the corner, you can see here that does compromise my inside line again. So taking a little bit more of a fade to the outside may have been beneficial here in trying to help get a better exit. But also twofold, I recognize that the corner after this is a right-hand turn. So even if I sacrifice my inside line, that puts him on the outside for the next corner if he tries to make a cutback. So I'm still on the inside and have the right line. Going back to that track map, again, recognizing where's a good place to defend. If I sacrifice my exit, it's going to hurt his exit for the next corner, hurt his entry for the next corner because he has to take not an ideal line. Now, this also shows how crazy fast the KTM was at this track. going around the outside of the kink. You can see just picking dust up in the marbles and still just as fast as we are on the inside. But still, again, exiting the corner, I'm using my straight line speed to my advantage. Getting into the kink, he gets a better run on exit, so that opens up that chance for Canada corner that we talked about a little bit earlier. But all I need to do now is just cover off that inside line too, as we do here. And same thing. Now, because the track almost curves back from the right-hand side, so it's a slight bit of a left turn coming into the braking zone, I'm taking a wide approach into there before cutting back to the middle of the track. Again, not allowing that opportunity to arise, so he's forced to go back to the outside. He can try to make an outside move here, but it's just not really going to work. And now we get back out of Canada corner into these S's where it's very hard to get a run. Again, a lot of switchback, so he just has to pretty much slot in behind me. The last corner, taking a very, very tight approach on entry, so he can't get on the brakes and get under me. You'd have to be a pretty late move, and again, long straightaway up ahead, so that works to my advantage. And we live another day. Another lap. Obviously, it can be pretty hectic as tires go away and different factors are at play, but essentially just knowing the track, knowing what corners I can defend in, knowing what corners you may need to give up a little bit, that's the key here. Knowing when to defend and when not to. You don't need to be on the inside of every corner. You don't need to be throwing the car, like weaving as much as you can, just a little bit, 50% across the track, block off that inside opportunity, fade back to the outside a little bit, give yourself a better entry point. That's going to be the key.